Hello guys, how are you? Fine? Today our first lesson is about multiplication by multiple of 10. First lesson on extra sheet is multiplication by multiples of 10. Let's revise, what do I mean by multiples of 10? Did you remember from grade 3? Multiples of 10 are any number in table 10. For example, when we say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and so on, any number in table 10 or any number ends with 0, we can name it by multiple of 10. Let's revise now. How do we multiply these numbers? For example, how do we multiply 40 by 200? And what can we say about these two numbers here, 40 and 200? What can we say about the answer? Okay, the first two numbers that we are multiplying them together, we name them factors. Whereas the answer here, we name it as a product. So the two numbers that we are multiplying them together are the factors, whereas the answer, we name it as a product. Now, how do we multiply 40 by 200? Steps we have to follow. The first step is to skip all the zeros at the end. So I will skip the zeros in the factors. I will just multiply 40 times 2. 4 times 2. 4 times 2 equals how much? Equals 8. So I will write 8 in the product. Now, the next step is to count all the zeros where in the factors. So we have two factors. Let's count all the zeros in both factors. 1, 2, 3. So we count 3 zeros. So I must place them where at the end? In the answer. 1, 2, 3. So now the product is 8,000. So the number of zeros in the product is the same as the number of zeros where in the factors. Let's check. How many zeros do we have here in the product? 1, 2, 3. How many zeros do we have in the factors in both? Not just one, in both. 1, 2, 3. So it's correct. What if we have already here, instead of 8, we have a number ends with 0? For example, if your product ends with 0, what shall I do? We must add an extra 0 to our product. For example, 50 times 60. The two factors here are 50 and 60. How do we multiply them? I will multiply the numbers without zeros. Skip the zeros. We multiply 5 times 6. It's how much? It's 30. So already here the product ends with 0. Why? Because 5 times 6 equals 30. Now what shall I do the next step? I will add the extra zeros to our product. How many zeros do we have in the factors? We have 1, 2. Place them at the end. 1, 2. Okay? We will do more examples. Let's multiply. 4 times 10 from table 10. What is 4 times 10? Equals 40. 3 times 100. Okay, the same as the previous way. I will skip all the zeros, skip them. Multiply 3 times 1 equals how much? 3. Any number we multiply it by 1 stays the same. So it stays 3. Now, how many zeros do we have? And the factors, we have 2 zeros. Here there's nothing. Here we have 2. So these 2, we must copy them here. So it's 300. Same way, 60 times 20. Skip the zeros. 2 times 6 equals how much? equals 12. So I will write 12. Now let's count the zeros in the factors, in both factors. 1, 2. So we must add them here. 1, 2. Again, 30 times 10, the same way. Skip the zeros. 3 times 1 equals how much? 3. So I will write 3. Now let's count the zeros where? In the factors. How many zeros do we have? 1, 2. I will place them here. 1, 2. So the product is 300. Another example, skip the zeros. 5 times 1, how much? It's 5. Now the next step is to count the zeros in the factors. 1, 2, 3. So don't forget to count this one also. So 1, 2, 3. Not just 2 or not just 1. In both, it's 3. So 1, 2, 3. Place them at the end. Same way, 7 times 3, how much? 21. How many zeros do we have in the factors? We have just one. Place it at the end. That's it. So let's revise the steps we have to follow. The first step is to multiply the factors without zeros. The next step, second one, is to count all the zeros. Count how many zeros do we have in the factors? Then write all the zeros where? To the product. Write them at the end. Okay, another example. Let's multiply. 4 times 50. We said that the first step is to multiply the factors without zeros. 4 times 5 equals how much? Equals 20. I will write 20. Now, second step, I will count. So here already we have 0. Okay, now I will write extra 0 because the product here is composed of 0. I will write the extra zeros. How many extra zeros do we have in the factors? We have just one. I will place it. Second one, 30 times 30, the same. Let's multiply the factors without zeros. 3 by 3, how much? 3 times 3 equals 9. I will write 9. How many zeros do we have in the factors? We have 1 in both, 2. So 1, 2. Place them at the end. The same. Multiply the factors. 2 times 3, 6. Now count the zeros. 1, 2. So I will place them here to the product. 1, 2. Same way. 9 times 2. How much? 18. How many zeros do we have here? In the factors, in both 1, 2, and 3. Place them here. 1, 2, 3. Okay? The same. Multiply the factors. 6 by 1 stays the same, 6. Count the zeros. How many zeros do we have in the factors? We have 2 zeros. Place them to the product. 1, 2. That's it. 70 times 50. Skip the zeros. The same way. Just multiply the factors. 7 times 5 equals how much? 35. With how many zeros do we have in the factors? Let's count them. 1, 2. So 1, 2. At the end, you can check. Check how many zeros do we have in the product? 1, 2. How many zeros do we have in the factors? 1, 2. So it's correct. Another example. 3 times 6, 18. Let's count. How many zeros do we have in the factors? Here there's nothing. Here we have 2. So we must place 2 zeros. 80 times 50. the same. 8 times 5, 40. So already here we have 0 in the product. Let's add now extra zeros. Okay? How many extra zeros do we have? 1, 2. So 1, 2. 40 times 60. 4 by 6. How much? 24. How many zeros? 1, 2. So 1, 2. The last one, 90 times 10, skip the zeros. 9 times 1, multiply the factors. 9 times 1, it's 9. Now let's place the zeros where? To the product. How many zeros do we have in the factors? Count them. 1, 2. So place them at the end. It's so easy, guys. You have to pay attention to the multiplication table. You must revise, memorize the tables well.